for the revelation of this surah. And this is important to understand when we study the Quran or try to get any benefit from the Quran. What context and in what background is Allah Azza wa Jal giving this speech? Because every surah is a speech of Allah. And a speech is given at a particular address, especially when it comes from a particular authority, right? An authority like, for example, in politics, you have a president, a senator, a governor. He's going to give a press release, he's going to give it at a particular occasion. And his speech is going to have to do with issues that are happening at that very moment. So it's going to be very relevant for us to know when was this speech given, who was this speech given to, what occasion was this speech given at, what made him say what he said. The same thing happens in the Quran. Allah Himself is speaking. So it's really important to know when is it that Allah said this. At least have some idea of who is it originally that Allah Azza wa Jal was talking to. So I want to lay a little bit of that in a couple of minutes before we go into the ayat. And then I want to share with you why is it that in this khutbah I chose to talk to you about this particular surah. You know, in Medina, when the Prophet migrated, becoming a Muslim became a lot easier. Being a Muslim in Mecca was a difficult thing. Because you were on the outskirts, you were the obscure, strange, new religion. Anybody who believes in this man to be a prophet is basically outcast immediately. They're looked upon as weird. Everybody around them is kind of even ostracizing them, cutting them off from their own circles. The biggest thing, you know what we think of as nationality or citizenship nowadays? That was tribal association back in the day. So they were even willing to basically disavow your citizenship, cut you off from the tribe if you became a Muslim. And early on it was just words and media propaganda, if you will. But later on it even became physical. It became extremely difficult for someone to come into Islam. But once the Prophet migrated to Medina and he came to a welcoming city, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where people were already waiting for him to arrive. Before he even got there, there's celebrations happening that the Prophet is coming. Sallallahu. The atmosphere is totally different. He didn't have to come and find it difficult to get an audience that wants to listen to him. This is what would happen to him in Mecca. Every time he would speak, people just walk away or start making noise. You know, وَأَلْغَوْ فِيهِ. Just make noise every time he talks. Don't listen to him. لَا تَسْمَعُوا لِهَذَا الرَّسُولِ لِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. Don't listen to this Qur'an. Don't listen to it. Just make noise every time he speaks. Ignore him, avoid him, insult him. That's not the case in Medina. In Medina, he gets a warm welcome. He's honored from the very first day. People are even, singing and praising before he even arrives into the city. It's amazing. But you know what? What also happened at that time? It became easier to become a Muslim. It became easier to become a Muslim. It's not like when you became Muslim, your house is in danger now, your family's in danger, you might lose everything you've earned all this time, you might lose all of your tribal associations, you might get yourself into serious trouble, people might stop doing business with you just because you've become a Muslim. You didn't have those dangers in Medina, you had those dangers in Mecca. So the reason I put this before you is because the people of Mecca, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa radiyallahu anhu ajma'in, may Allah be pleased with them, they sacrificed a lot to become Muslims. And when you sacrifice a lot for something, you have a lot of value for it. You have a real appreciation for it. So this thing that we say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is very easy for us to say. It was very difficult for them to say. So when they said it, they paid for it sometimes with blood, with tears. And so they had a value for it. But now the Muslims in Medina, though a lot of them, a good number of them are extremely sincere, a good number of Muslims also started coming into Islam, not realizing that this is some serious business. It requires a lot of sacrifice. They became Muslim kind of in a convenient way. Not through difficulty, but more conveniently. And therefore their iman, their faith hadn't really been put to the test. The reason I chose this surah is because in this surah Allah basically says to this Muslim community that is a mix of people that have made a lot of sacrifices and a bunch of people that just came into the religion. Some of them understand it very well, some of them really not that well, some of them don't even have very good intentions for being Muslim. They just see Muslims as the new rising power, so might as well join the winning team. Some of them haven't come in for good intentions. Incidentally, the surah I'm sharing with you, right before it is the surah called Surah Al-Munafiqun, the surah dedicated to the subject of hypocrisy. People who came into Islam with the wrong reasons. Or their faith got corrupted over time. Now in this surah, Allah talks to the entire Muslim community, the strong believer, the weak believer, the mature believer, the fresh, the freshman, the rookie into Islam. And then the one who's experienced, and even the corrupt one, he's talking to all of them together and saying, look, we need to have a refresher on who Allah is. You need to go back to Faith 101 and take a refresher course on your Iman. This is what this surah does. It talks to a Muslim community, I'll put it in easier terms for all of us. It talks to a Muslim community whose faith may be getting rusty. Their Iman may be getting rusty, time to clean it up and time to start from scratch again. So though most of these teachings, you don't find them in Makki Quran, you find them in, or you don't find them in Madani Quran, you find them in Makki Quran. Allah dedicates this as a direct, immediate and very relevant subject for the Muslim community. Why did I bring this up as a matter of khutbah? I was looking, generally I thought I'm going to give a khutbah about the subject of Iman, about faith. And I'm going to pick a passage from the Quran that deals with the subject of faith. But then I said, well, who am I talking to? I'm talking to a bunch of Muslims, including myself. I'm also talking to myself. And for most of us Muslims, have we made a lot of sacrifices to come into Islam? No, we haven't. Actually, for many of you that come from different parts of the world, your grandparents and your grandparents' grandparents almost paid with their blood, and sometimes they did, to hold on to La ilaha illallah. But we didn't pay that price. Our children didn't pay that price. And you know what? When you don't pay a price for something, sometimes you don't have a value for it. Maybe you never even give it a careful look because it's always been sitting there. You know, when you give somebody a gift, they look at it. You give a child a toy, they look at it every single way. My daughter just got a gift from her grandmother on a road trip here. She's been playing with it the entire 4 hours, looking at it, changing it this way, because it's a new gift. But if you look at her old gifts or old toys, well, the toys that's always been sitting in the house, they don't get a good look, do they? They don't get much attention. So there's something about being refreshed, having a new look, and that's what this surah does. So let's go at least take a few of these refreshers that Allah is giving us in this surah. He begins, Yusabbihu lillah. Very beautiful. This surah belongs to a group of surahs in the Quran, all of which have the same beginning, the same theme in the beginning. Allah compares the rest of the universe, the rest of everything He created on the one hand, and human beings on the other. Everything is on one hand and the human beings are on the other. There's a comparison between these two. Of course, both of them, the creator is Allah.